In various psychological frameworks, there is this general idea about restoring inherent or innate well being or goodness. It's never about like transforming, fixing, discovering something totally novel and implementing it into the system. It's always about a restorative process or a realigning process to something that was already innate and present, an inherent well being, goodness, and wholeness that was always within. In the model internal family systems, they say that there are no bad parts. And every single part of us, every thought, feeling, desire, for the most part, if not all, are innocent in some way, protective or adaptive. In Peter Levine's somatic experiencing, they discovered that when you just let the feelings pendulate and titrate and restore, that sort of anxieties or depressions or trauma states return back to a state of openness and connectedness. And then in polyvagal theory, what they discovered is that there was like three branches that we sort of stay in, or three like states in our nervous system, where it's a shutdown, survival, numb out. There's this anxious mobilization, always doing, or running, or all those different expressions. And then there's a state of connectedness, rest, and digest. But that rest state can be with the anxiousness and it can be with the shutdown. And those two things are now going to be flow and movement and deep rest rather than shutdown or anxiety. And then in this model called psychosynthesis, essentially what that is synthesizing these polarized parts of us into a more coherent, harmonious whole by recognizing that there is a deeper awareness or self in IFS language, or soul in more poetic and spiritual language, that can hold and contain everything lovingly until the tension is reconciled and transformed in a sort of alchemical way. In Jungian individuation, they talk about a similar thing, where what we're trying to do is make the unconscious conscious by bringing awareness to it and then learning it and then integrating it and making it a part of the larger whole, right? And so what this seems to point out for me, and I can be totally wrong, I'm not really sure, but through my personal experience and through what these systems seem to share to me, is that there is a deeper implicit wholeness and intelligence that is wanting to restore and then to grow, right? And so I'm curious, what is that thing? It seems to be similar to how an acorn knows to become an oak tree, but under the right circumstances and conditions, it either thrives into completion or gets arrested in its development somewhere along the way. And this is something that Bill Plockton talked about in Nature and the Soul, where he said, most of us have never been initiated into a true adulthood, in the sense that we get to explore our authenticity rather than sacrificing that for belonging. And in another sense, getting connected to a larger sense of self and a larger sense of responsibility globally, ecologically, but also personally and socially. And that there needs to be a process to which we sort of surrender to the mystery of our own inner world and inner being until that unitive pulse of life becomes aware in us. Now, this all feels really big, but imagine in a sense that there is a larger holding intelligence that sort of wove everything together in its uniquely complex and self-organizing way. Like, for an instance, how do these cells in your liver know that they're liver cells and not skin cells? and why do they stay there? And it could be because bioelectricity and communication between the cells, but what is bioelectricity and what is the communication between the cells? And it's hard to make any particular claim about this, but what we'll see is that the same process, for some reason, is emerging within each of us, and it has been, and a lot of ancient wisdom traditions as well has been very aware of this and has been working with this, and now it seems to be the case with modern systems of psychology and inner work and outer work. And so really what I'm trying to propose here, maybe map out, is that there seems to be a self-organizing process of unfoldment. And there are now psychological frameworks and tools that support this rather than dominate or control it, but learn how to be in relationship to it and help us become more conscious of it, to relate to this self-organization, because it's sort of like our bodies and our souls, in a poetic and beautiful sense, know. Like, they know all about it. And what we're trying to do is help the conscious eye, or help our personality in relationship with addressing, understanding, and expanding our sense of self. IFS offers this really interesting perspective on the psyche, stating that it's not a singular entity. I'm not just wearing this ego. There's actually egos, or parts, many parts of us. And all of these parts are taking position or role. Some are more forward and some are more background, depending on what state of protection we need, what situation we find ourselves in, and what our specific task, duty, or role is in that particular moment. And just the idea that our mind is multiple implies that there is also a larger unity holding it together. And that's what they call self in IFS. It's sort of who you are when you're not identified with any particular part, but it's the sort of organizing principle inside of you. And it helps re-roll and rearrange and renegotiate with these parts different ways to inhabit your system, life, and body, to better and more harmoniously live outwardly and express authentically and be exactly who you are in your fullness. But who you are is many. It's many different things, and sometimes there's parts of you that seem contradictory or going against what you really want. And that's where that self comes in, that self-organizing principle comes in. And so as we're sort of teasing out these different systems and what they contribute to this larger narrative or larger phenomenon occurring here, maybe we can get a better sense of how to move with it. But nonetheless, to ground this into an embodied way and maybe even collaborate and explore what's showing up and what this is, and from what perspective maybe you're coming from and maybe I'm coming from or not seeing, we can start to circle around this and see the beauty, the hope, the expression, the anatomy of whatever this self-organizing intelligence or principle is within us that's restoring us to an inherent well-being, wholeness, and equilibrium. Yeah, cool. So to practice this, we just want to start with dropping into the immediate moment. Right now, if you're willing, you can close your eyes and just begin to notice what is happening for you. What is present? What are you feeling? Is it numbness? Is it connectedness? Are you noticing parts of you wanting to do any various thing? Skip video, go on to the next thing, deeply attentive, and just keep watching them and noticing exactly what's present with you. And like a biologist in the field, simply noting the phenomenon that they're seeing around them, do the same. And just start to see how your system changes when you bring presence to the immediacy of your experience without necessarily getting caught in or swept up by any story, feeling, emotion, sensation. Just simply noting them. Numbness, anxiousness. And if anything starts to get too big, you can always reorient yourself back into this moment by opening your eyes. Cool. Yeah. And now just start to take account to what changed. What happened for you when you started to bring awareness to your inner world? What did you find out? So when we continue showing up to the immediacy of the present moment and start to develop the psychological frameworks and tools to navigate what might be present and how to support that process and its unfoldment, we're going to be able to better get a sense for this movement, this pulse of unfoldment and aliveness within us that is trying to restore and grow in a unique way. And it's helpful to start in the most somatic and broad stroke, because this thing will start to also inform decisions. It'll start to inform the way you move through life. It'll inform particular like cognitive polarities with different ideas and feelings that you're torn about. It can support just letting go into tension and releasing shame or anxiety or depression and these sort of deep holding patterns. And so really it's a mixture of doing this parts work, but also somatics, and then realizing that underneath it is this principle of synthesis, this self-organizing, returning to wholeness. And it can be as simple and as complex as anything, but you can always return to this present moment. You can always stay there, and as you start to grow in conscious awareness and will, you'll be able to start to shift into states more easily. And you'll see that underneath this experience of just being alive with your feelings, sensations, thoughts, emotions, subpersonalities, parts, traumas, creative impulse and desires, dreams, imagination, social situations, relationships, global situations, cosmic mysteries, all of that can be held in the depths of your own awareness, your own presence. As we get really intimate and comfortable with nothing, just spaciousness, we'll start to be able to be with the seasons and the cycles and the multiplicity of features and psychological functions of our inner and outer worlds. And what I hope and what I have a feeling for, but I'm not totally sure, is that there can be more creative freedom and alignment toward our life. We sort of start to peel back the layers of acrylic on a canvas and see that it's blank underneath. And that blank canvas is now an open ground for us to make inspired creativity and choice in our life, and to navigate the various flows and phenomenons of reality. And so to sort of weave together this narrative of the canvas, you can see that there is a palette And each color represents a psychological function or feature of reality. And you, as you've developed the conscious awareness or the conscious eye, starts to deepen their capacity to be a wielder of a brush and not be swept up by all of these features and functions and their various flows and dynamics, but start to co-collaborate with it and, in essence, create a canvas or a picture, an expression of your life, who you are on this earth in this moment that is completely inspired and unique to you. And also universal. All of these things are means to which we get to be more and more intimately intact and connected to the richness and splendor of existence and reality itself. And all the lessons, the intensity, the suffering, the confusion, the not knowing, being included. All of that can be contained in you, in us, in all of us. And maybe you can start to see how this will connect to a larger vision for planetary health and renewal. As we become deeply aware of how our inner world relates to itself and how harmony is formed by understanding the anatomy and features of the psyche itself, we'll start to see how those patterns translate externally. And again, all of that is taking place by itself. And we happen to be here as conscious agents amidst it all. So the question is who are we? And are we willing to be?